I'm going to lean on a question from Arvind Chari, who's follows the economy quite well. But he says that he wants, and I fully agree with him, to have all of you put on the spot and say, if you were the finance secretary or the finance minister, what would be the 5 things that you would do? And I'm hoping somewhere in the middle, somebody will mention the Indonesia experience, because the conversation veered away from get to have a chance. So, Dr. Pronab Sen, the question being, if you were the finance minister / finance secretary right now, what would be the 5 things that you would want?
Well, I don't know if I can tick off 5, but what I would do, number 1, reverse. First step, reverse the order that the finance minister has already given, which is all new projects be put on hold. That's number 1. Get them off the ground and get them off now, because ministries have spent 2 to 3 years in preparing these. The background work is done, the approvals are there, just get on with it. Number 2, identify projects where you can ramp up your expenditures quickly and substantially. NREGS is one, but there is a limitation there, which comes from state finances, which I'm not going to go into, but there is an issue there. But things like rural roads, things like micro and mini irrigation, things like rural and urban housing, these are all approved projects, and it's just a question of going ahead. Number 3, announce a major program for the upgradation of all health centers across the country. All, not just the hospitals, but the PHCs and the sub-centers as well. Number 4, announce a major program of urban renewal. Take advantage of the fact that you had a very large number of migrants who have left the cities. The pressure on our urban spaces is relatively less today. Start the process before these people come back, and then you have to go through the absolutely heartbreaking process of displacing them from their homes. 5th, please, for God's sake, spend over and above what you budgeted for, something like 5 lakh crores.
And monetize it.
I don't care how you finance it. You may not have to monetize all of it. You'll have to monetize, in my estimate, about 3 to 3.5 lakh crores.
Dr. Roy, 5 things.
I'd rather say that the first thing I'd do is seek a transfer to the Prime Minister's office, the way things are going nowadays in the finance ministry. But assuming that we were in a finance ministry that was actually, making policy.
No, sorry, I didn't hear you well.
The first thing I would do if I was finance secretary is seek a transfer to the Prime Minister's office. Since clearly policy is made there, it would so appear to me. But failing that, if I was in operational finance ministry, the first thing I would do is, first I would improve communication. The first thing I would communicate is this. I'm not going to worry about how much I spend until I tell you, the public of India, what I'm going to spend on over the next 3 years, and I'm going to commit and be accountable to what that is going to do to improve the state of the economy. I will communicate that first. I'd call it my 3-year spending battle plan. And we can differ on what you spend on. We have seen resonances on that. And I would try and come to a view, taking professional advice on what it is we should spend on, whether we do public works programs or whether we ramp up healthcare, or do both, and in what measure. And then I would present number 2, a calibrated spending program saying, 1, I will get this money in year T+2 by the recovery of tax revenues I will get from my spending program. Interim to that recovery, I will immediately have COVID-specific bonds, consoles. Need I elaborate? I won't. Consoles are basically, for the audience, bonds that you pay the interest on, and I would suggest you pay an attractive rate of interest, but you do so in, you pay the principal is in principle repayable only in perpetuity. I decide when I repay you, but you keep getting the interest. Okay, it's a perpetual. And by the way, I thought of this before the European Union. Added to that, I would make sure that the cash flow of approximately 1 to 1.5 trillion rupees that is scattered around different Government of India bank accounts, not in treasury, is mobilized. I would then see what the incremental remainder I need, what I can get from vanilla borrowing in due course, which would be more short-term and marketable, and what I can get from privatization in years T. See, the only thing your year T plus 1 privatization is impossible. If I'm thinking of T plus 1 to T plus 3, privatization is possible. So there will be disinvestment receipts coming. And if it's a matter of gearing between years T plus 1 and T plus 3, if I had a medium-term framework, I'd use a multi-period WME. So I've only given you 4 places to find money. That's my job. I'm a fiscal expert. Then I worry about this thing that seems to obsess everybody, monetization. Relax. There's lots you have to do, but first you have to tell me what I want to spend the money on, what is it, when is it going to get you payback? We do it in a 3 to 5 year framework. There is enough fiscal instrumentation. If it's a matter of liquidity management across 3 to 5 years to do it, as an extraordinary case in a multi-period way, it need not be tied to the annual challenge. That's 3 steps. The 4th step I would do is immediately and instantly commit that every further regulation issued regarding the private sector, credit management, etc., by either the RBI, since I am on the board, or the Ministry of Finance, or the Ministry of Commerce, or any other entity who goes around shooting off these ungrammatical regulations, commits to a time frame in which this regulation will not be altered. And that time frame cannot be less than 18 months. Cannot be. It is a bad and weak government that has to regulate, constantly tinker and alter its regulations repeatedly. This has been going on for too long. There are accusations this is done due to nepotism. I think a lot of it is just incompetence, and that has got to stop. And I find out why I'm not able to do it, and then if I needed to bring in expertise to do it, I would do so. And the final thing that I would commit in the finance ministry is to a transparent conversation regarding the 3 big issues of our time. Why is it that my economy's growth was slowing before COVID? It's essential equipment to write that medium-term plan. Number 2, why are my tax receipts stagnating irrespective of whether I grow fast or whether I grow slow? Number 3, to what extent is it important for me to acknowledge that my expenditure management systems are poor, and by what time frame will I come out with a plan that will give you metrics that will show that government will spend its money more effectively and more efficiently? And number 5, I would start a conversation headed by the defense minister, if the finance minister would be so kind, on how to use government land to make India slum-free, because that's also an asset, that's also a resource. I would start a conversation, I repeat, with the defense minister, with the vice chair being the railway minister, on how to use central government land to deliver a slum-free India in the metropolitan areas by 2020.
Both fabulous. Dr. Nageswaran, you want to add to that or pick up on any of those points, a combination of them?
No, I will add to them, but I will probably be expanding the question to the remit of the government and not just the finance minister or the finance secretary. So I would start by saying that the government of India will do away with income tax assessment and will rely on the existing mechanisms of TDS, advance tax, and for people to make tax payments, because 92% of the direct taxes come from voluntary compliance, and there is enough data with the government to ensure that it doesn't drop off the cliff. So doing away with income tax assessment will be a very good signal to the public, businesses and people about the ease of doing business, ease of living in the country. The second would be, I would give a 3-month time frame to restore, even if it means restating the growth rates of some of the years, to restore macroeconomic data credibility of the states and the union macro data, the country level macro data. And the third thing I would do would be to, as you know, Ananth and I have been privately discussing several times, to use this opportunity to appoint a crack team of experts from different disciplines, serving and current former bureaucrats and experts in other fields, which will report to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, an empowered committee, and that will make decisions. That will be number 3. Number 4, using the opportunity of the global value chains, trying to relocate out of China, call directly the top 20 businesses which are looking to move out of China. Ask them a couple of questions. What is it that would make you move to India? And find out what is the time frame that they are willing to give India. And then open up this idea to different states and ask them which state is ready to deliver on these, and then create a competition among them. And that would be a very credible way of going about attracting companies to relocate to India. My 4th suggestion would be to organize a conclave of state chief ministers or the finance ministers or both, and agree on just three important reforms and ensure that it is time bound, it is deliverable, it is monitorable on whether it is land or power or whether it is water or education or health. Choose any three and then report on them. The fifth one would be, as a finance person, I would agree to cap the cess in the total revenues of the union government, because while the official shareable portion has been increasing, but the cess portion has been rising much faster, which is not shared with the state. So I would commit to cap the cess in the total revenue of the union government, and also come out with the firm settlement of the GST compensation cess. These would be the 5 things to do.
Ananth, to you for your 5, but also I'll request you to, after that, perhaps help us wrap up the conversation.
You do the wrapping up era, so I'll stop. Great. Look, fantastic suggestions. So very difficult to come up with new ones, but I'll tell you what I would do. First, I'm an armchair professor. I don't have to do anything, so I'll just dream on and go, like Ananth said, which is go beyond finance secretary to a higher level. First, on COVID-19, we don't know how long this is going to go on. Be prepared to provide whatever relief is required, both to the workforce, to people, and to small businesses. Don't worry about the fisc. What needs to be provided has to be provided. So that's point number 1. Be ready to spend when required. Having said that, the next parts will be about a medium-term plan, the one that Dr. Roy referred to, which is you have to have a plan of how you go beyond COVID-19. Right? There, I would do the following. First, I would look at the financial services ecosystem. It is in no shape, even before COVID-19, to fund our growth aspirations. I would rope in experts, like Ananth said. I would rope in experts. You take names, Uday Kotak, Deepak Parekh, you name it. Enough number of good people who can be roped in for all of these big long-term measures. But for the banking and the financial sector system, you probably need a one-time solution for the NPAs. IBC and NCLT are good, but they're not enough. You also need banking reforms like PGNI committee reforms. You also need governance reforms. You also need market reforms. All of that entire financial services ecosystem cleanup has to happen. Next, when you look at the other sectors which are chronically stressed, power, real estate, telecom, airline and shipping, get in experts again, empower them, ask them to tell you how to solve these issues, lock up those people, all the stakeholders in one room, state government, central government, secretaries, and so on and so forth. Don't open the door until they've come out with a solution, right? And don't kick the can down the road. So clean up that entire mess of those stressed out sectors. The fourth part would be what we talked about, ease of doing investments, creating jobs and output. And this is going to be tough. Again, you need multiple stakeholders. You need experts. You need central government, state governments. Get in the Foxcons. Get in the Boeings and the Lockheed Martins to give you inputs. Your own domestic investors, ask them to give inputs and make changes to ease investments and therefore create jobs and output. The last 5th bit, I think one lesson we have to take away: the need to invest in healthcare, education, and nutrition. Bhutto was fond of saying, even if you have to eat grass, we'll create a nuclear bomb in response to our nuclear test, right? Our motto has to be, even if you have to eat grass, we have to give our children education, healthcare, and nutrition. I think that has to be our motto completely. So these would be the 5 things. Again, armchair professor, so I can say whatever I want. Back to you, Ira.